Okay, so we're going to start first with thank you again for your patience, Trish Lechner. And I want to start before we get into my story around how your mind shapes your world. Because when you think about I think about a couple concepts that I didn't know were naturally something that I had, that I think it really helped me change the way I thought about career growth. And so I looked at opportunity a little bit differently. But over time, as I've grown up and matured and researched, I've learned that there really are some concepts that I could share with others that might help them. And so we're going to start there. So the first thing I would ask for you in your chat is, tell me something you have ever burned in your oven. Something that you have burned while you were cooking in your oven. Brownies. Cookies. I get mad when I burn cookies because you work so hard and you're so excited and then you blow it. Chicken. Cake. Okay. Yep. French fries and fish sticks. Nice. So why am I asking that question? Because it's about learning. And when you have burned the cookies and the French fries and the pie, you don't burn it the second time, because you have learned that if you run the chicken at 400 for an hour and a half, your chicken's going to come out like leather. And so this concept is very simple. It's called the growth mindset. And so if you have a growth mindset, it's amazing how you can change your perspective and be willing to grow and learn. And you think, yeah, I learn and grow all the time. But if you're really deliberate, it can help. Trial and error allows us to grow, trying new things, getting out of our comfort zone. So if you've never tried anything new, you're never going to know whether or not it was something that you could actually do or enjoy. So if you were to Google YouTube and go look, growth mindset, there's a really cute little clip out there. It's a couple minutes long. It's about these two beans, like think about like a seed or a bean, and they're planted in the earth. And one has growth mindset and one does not. And the one that does not have growth mindset doesn't know what to do, comfortable staying in the earth, and never actually tries to do anything but be a bean and stay in the earth. While the second bean has a growth mindset and gets curious and starts to explore and eventually goes up and up until it breaks out of the soil and becomes an actual plant, and determines there's a sunshine out there, there's air, there's so many other things. But they were willing to try and have that experience so they could grow. And so being curious is so key to really expanding who you are in your growth as a person. And learners and educators typically are very natural at this. Learning that failure is okay. Fast failure, quick recovery is kind of how I think about it. I think Edison tried the light bulb 1,000 times before he got it right. Everything is a learning. And if you learn and grow from it, then you're better for it. So you have to be fearless, and you have to be a risk taker, and you have to rely somewhat on the confidence deep inside that you have, even if you're terrified. So the first concept that I really want you to think about is growth mindset. Get a mindset of, I'm going to grow and I'm going to learn, because there's a million ways to do things. They all can get to the same outcome. They just may take different journeys or different time spans to get there. You may not always be as efficient, but you'll learn for the next time. So growth mindset. So question for you on the chat, you buying in? Have you heard of growth mindset? Is that something that you naturally do, or that you would consider thinking more about? Give me some thumbs up or some kind of emoji to know that you're on with me on growth mindset. Thank you. So the next step is, have you ever gotten an assignment? So share an assignment that your first thought was, I can't do that. I can't do that. And if you've ever done that, give me something in the chat. What was the assignment? Just something very simple, a couple words. What was the assignment? You got an assignment and the first thought was, oh my gosh, I can't do that. Stats. We love our math. What else? Or have you ever data crunching and budgeting? Okay, there's a trend going here. Create a high school curriculum. And then what about some of you that said, I got an assignment and you immediately thought, yeah, I can do that. What are some examples of, yeah, I can do that? Plan a community event. That takes a lot of energy. Build a cacao pet. Vendor selection. Very nice. So the second concept around this is the story you tell yourself. There is power in your self-talk. When you talk to yourself, that story becomes who you are. So imagine that you have an opportunity for a job promotion, but it terrifies you. Maybe they're recruiting you to do something. If you tell yourself the story, I can't do this job. I don't understand this business. I'm not proficient on this tool. Then you will not do that job and you will not be proficient. But what if you changed your story? You looked in the mirror and you said, I need to lose 20 pounds. I've tried, I've tried and I've given up, or I will, and I'll just get this done. When you see a job description, they tend to freak people out because for some reason, job descriptions want to throw in the kitchen sink. But in reality, the majority of the job is probably in the first couple items. Most people don't really do everything in a job description, but they do things that aren't in the job description. So you have to put a frame of mind about everything in life of what is the story I'm telling myself. So whenever you're feeling freaked out, catch yourself and ask yourself, what is my story? Change the story to positive. I can learn. Learning is so essential for career growth. I can do anything I want to do. These are skills you acquire. So growth mindset, the story that you tell yourself. You want to be fearless, you want to be a risk taker, you want to be confident, and you want to be positive, and you want to be a learner. Those are all great skills to have. So now we're going to talk a little bit about my story. And, some things that I think about is the ability to pivot. And when you aren't wired to pivot because you kind of like your things the way they are every day, it can make it much more difficult. But here's what happened to me early on in my career. I had an opportunity to ask a CEO over a dinner. I had won an award. Help me understand the best way to career path. And he shocked me. He said, there is no such thing as a career path. This is what you have to do. Learn a lot, do good and really understand your own job, learn more around your job, collaborate with people, learn more about their jobs, and then just be ready when opportunities open. Because if you're preparing yourself through learning and working with other people, then when the opportunity is ready, you'll be here. He said, I'm the CEO because this person quit when the merger happened, and this person had the CEO job, fell on hard times, and was asked to be removed. I was ready. I was there. That's how I got the job. So I thought that was very interesting, and it changed how I thought about career pathing. Instead of saying, I'm an instructional designer, then I will be a senior developer, and then I will be a consultant level, and then I will be a director level, and then a training director. I started to see, well, what are other skills I could do, and how could I diversify this skill I have as a training instructional design person? Also, you can do everything you want. You can prepare all you want. But one thing I will tell you, and I walk on faith, I believe that things are put in your path, doors open for a reason. And if you have that faith with a higher power or God, I think that that plays heavily into what happens to you in your life. And so I don't want to dismiss that not everything is within our control. But if you walk on good faith, it's amazing what good things happen to you. So that's just something else that I think has really shaped my story, because there are things that came out of nowhere that I could have never imagined, but I was ready, but I didn't, that door opened for me. So something else to consider, regardless of where you're thinking, maybe consider it. So I had a really cool slide, but I'll get it to you where it shows kind of the progression. But let's start with my first job. I'm in high school and I get a job at a movie theater. I work for AMC Movie Theaters, and I started out as just a kid selling popcorn. The way I was trained was horrible. It was sink or swim. I had 20 minutes to learn how to fill a popcorn, fill a drink, and run that cash register. You had to know the prices. I didn't know the prices. So I spent the entire night working, looking back at the menu board to see how much to charge these poor people. And I remember thinking, man, if I was ever teaching these people, this is not how I would do it. Fast forward a couple months and they put me in the box office. And now I'm selling tickets. And I became a peer trainer. I, immediately started teaching other people how to be really good at selling the popcorn, suggestive selling tickets, tearing tickets, whatever. And by 19 years old, my little high school job had turned into a part-time management job. And now I'm a part-time manager. And I never really worked without a main manager, but now I'm like leading people and I'm leading customers and I'm dealing with the money and all of those great things. But then I was promoted to a full-time manager when I was a junior in college. I'm 22. No, I would have been 21, maybe 21 years old. And I'm a manager of a movie theater, a 6-screen theater that does lots of business, millions of dollars in business back in the day, dealing with a staff of about 40 people and taking on how to run a business. So I'm picking up skills about business, running a business. I'm picking up skills about how things work. But at the back of it, I'm this natural trainer who doesn't have any formal training, but I enjoy the work. Fast forward, I'm 25. Now I'm a general manager, and they've asked me to be a director of training. They send me over to Kansas City, Missouri, put me in 6 weeks to learn how to be, the general manager that I became. Then I go into Longevin training so I can be like certified in how to facilitate, how to write learning objectives, the gig. Later, they send me on to another training. I am able to obtain DDI, which is Developmental Dimensions International certification as a trainer. And now I'm a bona fide certified trainer, and I'm running training academies for the managers. And I'm doing soft skills and I'm doing hard skills for running a theater. So everything from teaching them how to do P&L on. And I'm doing this job. It's a great job. It's a fun job. And then I'm getting a little older. I'm in my early 30s. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm in the middle of the night popping popcorn during a Star Wars movie, crazy 24-hour marathon. I've got a master's degree because AMC paid 50% of my tuition. They owned me for 2 years after. That was the price back then, 2 years of your time, or you'd have to pay it back. And I'm at 2.5 years. And I think to myself, I don't want to do this anymore. It was that instantaneous. And so I got a job. I arrived at a Fortune 100 company, Nationwide Insurance, on the financial services side. And I'm going to be a trainer. I took a pay cut. It's going to be instructional design and course facilitation for new employees in the call centers and in the processing teams. I take a pay cut because I just want to get into corporate America. I have my MBA. I'm making less than I would have ever thought I would, but I'm willing to do it. I'm hired into a retirement plans division, and I know nothing about retirement plans. What I know from retirement plans is I have a 401k because someone said I should. I learn the business. I end up obtaining my FINRA registrations so I could actually be a financial advisor. And I'm learning the business, and I'm designing training for salespeople, call center people, processing team. I learn how to document procedures. I'm certified in documenting procedures through information mapping. I'm gaining some steam in understanding my skills in learning more. Also bringing with me all the tenacity of running a movie theater because of the way I think, the way I do things, very different than the cube world that I walked into. So I look a little different than other people. So I'm in this job for about 3.5 years and I'm bored. I'm trying to do something different. And so I decided, well, maybe I'll be a project manager. I actually have been on project teams as the trainer, to be the person to run the training for the new project. And I think I could do that job. So I go talk to the project management folks and they tell me no, they don't see me in that role and they reject me. So then I thought, well, I'll just go in the call center and maybe I'll be like a team lead or something. I managed the movie theater. And when I left the theater, I had a 24 screen theater with 170 employees. And they're like, no, we don't really see you there. So I'm like, okay, well, what else can I do? And I decided to apply and I did get the job. I became a corporate philanthropist. I ended up being the nationwide community programs manager. And now I'm going to manage all of the philanthropic programs, United Way, the Red Cross, we had a blood donor center in the building, Feeding America. There was a walk nationwide. And so I'm going to run these programs to get money. And of course, the year I go, we have Katrina, and we had a lot of need. So I'm doing that. And okay, I'm not sure I'm loving it as much as I thought I would because it's a lot. But then there's 2 projects that come up. They want me to automate the way the money gets paid out to the United Ways. And then they also want me to automate the pledging system for the employees because it was all paper. So now I'm running 2 projects and I'm the manager. Well, now I'm picking up new skills. I'm learning about relationship building. I'm learning a lot about empathy in this job. I'm learning about being humble in this job. And now I'm learning about organizational skills. I'm learning a little bit about technology and how they talk and think. And so I'm like, okay, this is great. Actually, I loved the projects. I love that more than working on asking employees for money and literally time and literally blood. And so for me, I decided, I want to go back into the business on the financial services side because I didn't want to lose that FINRA license. Those tests are not easy. I mean, that was a lot of studying and I didn't want to have to do that again. And so I applied for a job as a project manager on the business side. And I took the risk. I had no idea the business unit. It was new. I didn't know what they were trying to do. And I went to the interview and holy smokes, I'm getting the job. And I'm going to get a job that I came out of that interview and said to my husband, oh my God, I'm going to get this job and I'm scared to death. I don't know if I can want that job or can do it. And he said, you can do it. And I had to have that self-talk moment. And I got the job to open up a sales distribution center selling financial products over the phone. Are you kidding me? Like, well, I don't know anything about that, but you know what I do? I do know how to relate to people. And I knew how to build relationships, more skills, right? And so I started making good friends with the compliance team and the lawyers because they're going to know. Went in, met with them in person and flew out to Philadelphia, had a working session, put a marker in their hands. They started drawing out ideas. And the next thing you know, we've got a plan. And 8 weeks later, we opened up a sales distribution center that had been in the works for 9 months. And I was the 3rd project manager hired and had not failed. And I have to tell you, that was a really big accomplishment. It came from everybody pitching in, but it came from me being what I call the arranger. If you do strength finders, I've learned that's my number 1 strength, where you can orchestrate lots of different people with their skills to bring their value into the whole team to drive an outcome. And along the way, I'm learning. So I sound like an expert now in retail sales because I've learned. I've written the scripts for what the sales reps are going to say so we can open and make sure they're compliant. And so I do this and I stay in that role. And then I'm promoted the next year to a director. And then the next year I'm promoted to a senior consultant. And I'm asked to move over to the broker dealer. So now I'm going to work in a broker dealer and I'm going to run a $150 million program. And I am not an IT person, but this is a business job. Well, I have a small team and we have no training. So I set up a small training organization with just a couple trainers, and then business project managers. And then I'm responsible to determine like, what do we need? So I have to go find subject matter experts known as SMEs. And so this is now, I've got to have passion. I've got to use logic. I've got to start using more visualizing skills of what we're trying to accomplish. I've got to be a really good communicator. I've got to synthesize information. I've got to be a storyteller. It was a lot. And so I went ahead and said, I'm going to go ahead and increase my development. And that's when I pursued ProSci Change Management and was certified. And so why not? Let's go for some more. And I ended up pursuing, it took about a year and I got my Six Sigma green belt. And so now I'm in this role for a couple of years and life is feeling pretty good. And then an opportunity opened that I applied to be an associate vice president, chief of staff for the president of Nationwide Financial. And during my interviewing, they said, we're probably not going to move you along, but your background really would be better for the retirement plans business because that president needs a chief of staff. Would you be interested in that? And my outside voice said yes. And my inside voice said, oh no, like going back into the business I had left, to go into corporate philanthropy. But I went for it and by golly, I got the job. So now I'm a chief of staff. I'm an associate vice president, an officer of the company. And this job is very ambiguous. So now I've got to be somebody who's curious. I've got to be confident. I've got to be friendly with everyone. I got to collaborate. I got to be a storyteller. I got to be humble because I don't have a team. So I'm not equal to my peers, but I'm a peer to the leadership team. I'm working with the president and chief operating officer as my boss. I'm getting to know him. And he used to be the CFO. And so he's very different in his thinking style, but we're hitting it off. And then boom, he quits. He leaves 3 months into it. And then I inherit this sales distribution leader that's going to be the new guy. And everyone's telling me, you're probably going to lose your job. He probably won't need you. I'm like, okay, well, I'll figure out something. Well, that didn't happen. He did need me. And we hit it off great. And I worked for him for 3.5 years. And he put me in charge of building out the business unit strategy. So now I'm going to do strategy. Well, okay, I need data analytic people. I need to bring in strategy consulting from our strategy office. And so basically, I'm now learning more skills. And so then I decided our sales weren't really hitting. So I thought I'd go look at the RFPs and just take a look at them. Being a trainer, chunking information and how things are laid out can make the difference. And the gentleman over that department said, absolutely, take a look at it. I'd love to hear what you come up with. And so got a small team together. We went through it and it was exactly what I thought. It was poor writing. It was grammar nightmares. It was not answering the question. It was answering the question with a dissertation, literal dissertation. And so with that, people didn't want to buy our product. But when we cleaned it up, we started winning. We started making it to our finalists and our sales started going up. So things are going great, still going great. And then I'm deciding, I'm ready to get back into leading people because I haven't led people now with this job for 3 years. And I go to the business development team in retirement plans and I become the PMO leader. Now I'm going to run a project management office. So I've not really done that. Now let me take a moment. Remember, back when I was a trainer, I went up and asked if I could be a business project manager and I was rejected. Well, now I'm leading the very team and the people that rejected me. Very, very, very ironic. A year into this, they asked me to take a $270 million program. And so now I am now running all of the business development team members that work on these projects, 125. I stand up a new training organization because we were going to need training and change management. So I had 2 change management folks, and then there were 8 training people, professionals that were going to do instructional design. And we also hired a design firm to help us with the timeline. So now I have to be very innovative. Again, logic. I got to have fun because with 125 people, you got to make job fun so that you don't have high turnover and people feel valued. And so I really did a lot in the mentoring space. I got real relentless as a skill. Like it is a skill to be like not giving up because it wasn't always easy. You had to try to sell the story of why we should do things a certain way. And you had to kind of break the the paradigm of how they had been working on this program. And so I did this for, I was in that role for 5 years, almost 5 years, 6 years. And then I was bored. I get bored. And I was asked to stay, to hang in there another 2 years, and I just couldn't do it. And so I prayed on it. That's literally what happened. And next thing you know, I get a phone call from a friend who recruits me to go to a SaaS insurance company. And I'm going to be the vice president of delivery. And on my third day, they were working on a training strategy because they had no training department, no real training infrastructure. And I'm interviewed by KPMG, who they had hired. And they tell the CEO I should be their VP leader for education. Next thing you know, I am now the VP of partner in education, and stood up a new training organization with the LMS platform, virtual labs, we bring in software, bring in some real top talent from outside. And then also I inherited people that came to work one day and they were voluntold they were going to be on the training team. And so from that small, nimble group of 7, 3 in India and the rest spread out all over the United States, we spent the next year and a half, 2 years killing it, building out e-learning, scalable learning, certification, what would be needed, an LMS platform, key messaging. We raised the engagement for learning and really turned that around. But then the next thing that happened, I'm 2.5 years now later, expenses and this is business. Expenses and revenue didn't match. Sales were down. And so there was a massive cut. And sometimes when you're in these types of roles, you are primed to be cut. And that's what happened to me. I was severanced out in the fall of 2023 and decided to take some time off to kind of, read some stuff for fun, do some traveling, go see some friends and relatives that you never seem to get around. And so coming into 2024, I'm now up for what is my next adventure. And I may do something in operations. I may do something in customer success. I may do something in education, maybe business transformation. I'm still really evaluating, throwing out a few resumes here and there. But I think over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to get more serious and probably enlist a headhunter and figure out, what do I want to do? I'm even looking at, do I want to buy a franchise or do something in the virtual space? But at the end of the day, what I will tell you is, and I don't have my beautiful slide that I will make sure you have, because I had a beautiful cloud art. The key, in my opinion, as you come out of your instructional design training mentality, is that you are first and foremost a learner. That's your number one skill. You've got to be a learner. If you want to pivot up, pivot over, pivot back, pivot up again, pivot to another direction and back, whatever you want to do. Learner is number one. The second thing is you got to have a growth mindset. You've got to take risks, and you cannot look at failure as a devastation. You got to look at it as just another thing you've learned. You've got to be a risk taker. You've got to be willing to try outside your comfort zone. You've got to be a relationship builder, somebody who can talk to people and relate with them. You need to be humble because you are going to learn and you need people to help you learn. You need to be a really strong communicator. And then there are so many other great skills. You want to have confidence. You want to be friendly. You want to be passionate. You want to be organized. You want to be optimistic. You want to be able to prioritize. You want to be able to sequence. Think about the work you do. You chunk information into consumable learning components. Anything you do in a project is chunking the project into a consumable piece of information sequenced in a way that consumers of the project will be able to handle. Because if you're revamping someone's screens in a project, you don't revamp them every 3 weeks and come back and retrain them on the new thing. That's why trainers are so good in project management, because they understand the empathy and the experience of the person being impacted, because good trainers understand and read their learners. They know when to pivot. I'm sure everyone here has been in a place where they're teaching and they look at their audience, whether virtual or in person, and they're seeing deer in headlights. The good trainer doesn't keep going through PowerPoint or going through the lesson plan. They stop. They start asking questions to confirm and check for understanding. And if they're not getting that, they start coming up with parallel examples to help that learner come together and actually get the information. May even ask the people to recite back what they're hearing or give examples. And so you have to think that way, that chunking, sequencing, prioritizing, those are powerful skills, powerful. Because honestly, most people aren't real good at it. If you really think about it, how many times have you picked up a lesson plan that you have to revise because it's just a lot. There's no logical sequence. There's no understanding about the building blocks of the learning of that particular thing. You don't teach a person to drive by walking them through how the engine works and then giving them the keys and saying, let's go. And if you are doing that, God help you and your insurance and what's going to happen when that learner gets on the highway. So chunking and prioritizing and sequencing are great. Synthesizing is great. And you have to ask the question, why? You really got to get good at asking why. Not why, like why, but help me seeking to understand why. Because if you understand the rationale and the end goal or the end outcome, so if you're visualizing and thinking ahead and then working backwards how to get there are all great skills to help you be really good at both instructional design and project management, and probably a million other careers if you really set your sights on them. These are just some things to think about. There are other skills like problem solving, assessments, being able to do an assessment on people or needs assessments, talent development, leadership skills are very important. I think anybody that wants to really grow their career should learn some of the best principles of being a really strong leader, because I always believe you're either a leader of people or you're a leader of your work. I don't think of people as anything but leaders. I don't like the word manager personally, but I think that if you always think of yourself, again, the story you tell yourself, I'm a leader of people or I'm a leader of my work. And if you're a leader of your work, it gives you more empowerment and more buy-in and commitment than you're just an employee working on the most recent task. Let me think here. What else I want to say before we move on? You want to, your higher adaptability mindset and not being able to connect yourself. There are people who don't like to move. There are people that get attached to things or homes. I'm not suggesting that all of this will help you become some crazy person that likes to move every 3 months. And that's to my friend Jelena, who's out there, who is she called herself a digital nomad. But she actually inspired us to hear and understand, and her seeking to understand the different cultures and places that she lived was also something that was great for us to understand that. But adapting to new surroundings and then shaking it off. When I was going to be severance and they asked me to stay 90 days to help with the transition, I could have handled that a lot of different ways. I could have cried about it. I could have been very angry about it. I could have been devastated. Instead, I just said, business is like this, when margins don't hit, things happen. And I've never had this happen to me, but you know what? There's a first and there's a reason for it and I'm going to learn from it and it's going to be okay. So I'm thinking, let's see, about educators in school. I'm guessing that a lot of these things you do every day, because there's no way you can predict in a classroom from day to day what might happen, what child might bring up something, what projectile vomiting occurs, what went just tragically wrong in your lesson plan, or just in general how you were feeling about how it looked on paper didn't resonate. We all have that, but being able to pivot and make that happen is all what it's about. Transferable skills, that's what we're talking about, folks. You have transferable skills. We all do. So with that, I'd love to hear others and some of your skills that you have found that are transferable that I may not have mentioned, or you really have relied on to allow you to pivot and experience a lot of different things. So with that, I'm going to open up to chat. And then, Luis, we'll bring you back for actual questions.
I have a few questions for you, Trish.
Go ahead.
All right. So let's start with one from Julena. What are some of your must-haves and deal breakers when considering transitioning to a new role, department, or company?
Vacation policy, because I really believe that you should take time off a lot. I think work-life balance is critical. If you can take a week off every 3 months, you should. Because what happens is you'll work like crazy for 11 weeks, take your week off, refuel, come back, and be really incredible. And I can tell you, and I don't know if Chrissy's out there, but when we hired Chrissy didn't buy into this idea. I kept telling her to take time. But from a teacher's point of view, that was not in her DNA. She was just used to being off all summer. And so it was really a big change for her to learn to be like, yeah, I'm going to actually take off time in the summer, and I'm going to take off time outside the summer. I'm just not going to take off as much time in the summer at the same time. So that's one of it. Also, benefits I think are important. I want to make sure I have insurance, 401k. I want to have the ability to have some autonomy in my job. I do not want to be micromanaged. And I also want to see if that company is the best places to work. I want to know if they have a Gallup engagement. I want to know what the engagement looks like. I will tell you, in my last company, I did not check those things. And that made a difference. The culture was very challenging with 85% of the population outside the United States. It was a very different type of culture. And while we pivoted and made things work and things were really good for us in our training group, it was not always easy to get things done the way we would have liked. Thank you, Jelena, for that question.
I feel like you have worked like a dozen careers. So I'm like, where did you ever have time to go on vacation?
Because I am a leader first.
Yeah.
And so my people could take care of things while I was gone.
Yeah.
I make myself replaceable. When I left to leave to go to my training, the training role, I had 3 people that could slide right into my executive role. And one of them did get it. I believe in getting them ready. And when I left, the team that I left, the people that were on that team are natural leaders, and they are running smoothly alongside the new person that kind of got inherited them. That was an existing person, not an education background person. That it was more of a tenure thing, and a really good person. Don't get me wrong, but the team is continuing the work and the leadership, so it's been good.
Yeah, no.
She's leading. I mean, the main leader's leading, but like not, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
what else you got?
Yeah, you're definitely showing hallmarks of a great leader. So it's thank you so much for sharing this. Let me show. So we got one more. This one's from Cindy. Yesterday, one of the sessions spoke about code switching at work. In what ways have you had to change the way you communicate across various levels of management within your organization?
So one of the things you have to be good at is, the emotional intelligence, and I get it right a lot, and I get it wrong too. You have to understand politics, politics, and what is the norm, and how far can you push the norm. So relationships are where it comes in. And so you learn, or you'll get good coaching from people that you can trust without being shamed, if you will. But you do have to change your communication style to meet the need of your direct leader and their leaders. I will tell you, in the corporate philanthropy job, one of the reasons I also had no issue leaving is that the person who ran that division was very micromanager, hands-on, and it strangled me. And so so for me, it's like, my communication skill didn't matter what I thought. She just wanted it done her way. And that's another thing, if you're not a good fit, then you need to move on. You need to be your authentic self. And I still say there's a great book called, You're a Badass. I think everybody should read that. It is about being authentic. And if you don't have time for that, just go watch the Netflix, Brene Brown, the Daring Courage. It's fantastic. So you do have to pivot. And sometimes you got to keep your mouth shut. And sometimes you have to go with the flow. But at the end of the day, you got to be authentic because you cannot lie. Because you're not doing the organization any good just to make somebody's ego feel better. But you do have to change. You do have to pivot with your leaders. What else?
All right, let's see here. I got one from me. How did you ensure the businesses you worked for understood the value you bring?
I think that I always make it about the team, not about Trish. And when they see team performance change and there's more energy, there's more passion, there's more engagement. The people themselves are having fun, and it shows up in low turnover rates. I lost 2 employees in 4.5 years in that bigger program we had. The engagement scores on a scale of 1 to 5 ran between 4.5 and 4.65 every year. When I inherited the PMO, it was 3.7. We raised it up to 4.5 in my first year. And it was because I managed by walking around. And when I went to virtual, I managed through deliberate communication. I reach out, I talk, I encourage it. I want them to talk as if they could turn to the chair next to their friend and talk about how was your weekend. We just have to dial up and chat up and do that. And then people get to know you. Then you can build trust through vulnerability, and you can start to see them in their little home offices come to life, just as you did when you were walking around and seeing the pictures of their kids on their desk. So then the value just speaks for itself because we hit the deadlines, we hit the goals, and we celebrate. Oh, and we celebrate big time.
Excellent. Okay, everybody. And if you can, I have a few other questions in the QA area. If anybody wants to upvote, or if there's any in particular in there, because we only have time for a couple more, and I definitely have a lot of questions left. But let me show this one from Mark. Any thoughts on being an efficient project manager who keeps folks on task while not being overbearing or micromanager?
Oh, it's a great question. All right. So a leader is not a task master. If you take care of the people, they will take care of the tasks. If they have clear expectations, what is expected of them, and it's easily describable by them back to you in outcomes, and their opinion counts, how they want to approach things and how they want to do the work, and you support that, even when you know there's a better way, you let them do it their way, because there's where the growth mindset is. And they feel the value and the respect, because they might just prove you wrong, and they have proven me wrong. That's why I learned a long time, and it's a terrible, terrible scenario, but a million ways to skin a cat. Hate it, but I'm saying it anyway. But as long as the cat still gets what it's supposed to get, who cares how you arrived? Because the learning and the self-realization is worth it. So you should never nag people, because if you take care of the people, show that you care about them, and focus on them as humans and in their families and what their life is, that you get to know them, they will take care of the work, and they will have fun doing it.
Okay, I've got 2 that have been upvoted. So let's try this first one. Maybe this will be a quick one. Just some specifics about your instructional design roles. Did you use any authoring tools? Did you build e-learning?
So it's funny. In my early days, instructional design was still manuals, training manuals, and we were just going to the big buzz, right? CBT, computer-based training. So I did not, in that role, do anything in that space. In the movie theater, it was all instructional design, but movie theater training is a lot of fun, because we watched the movie The Fugitive to teach them problem solving. There's a whole lesson plan that we did. And I've seen The Fugitive so many times I will never watch it again, because we had to watch the whole movie, and literally the class would have to yell out. When I got into the space of my last job, we had to bring in the tools. I played in the tools. I did not design a course from A to Z. But I did review the courses, as well as, I mean, I have top talented instructional design folks. They're on this call now, that worked for me, that um, I didn't need to do anything, and they schooled me because I had to re-ramp up. Because remember, I'd been out of training for years, and so my role really was when we got into virtual labs and how do you use Addy in the design of a virtual lab experience. Very different, but yet very similar. And we also hired a design firm, so I was able to help ascertain whether or not I thought the lesson was effective. It had enough reinforcement. The activities felt right. But I was also looking at self-grading modules. I was looking at things to scale on, is where my focus was. And then folks like Jelena and Chrissy on this call were the experts to make sure that it was design sound and would make recommendations. So I have to give the credit where the credit's due, wasn't me.
Excellent. Okay. And then
I just know if I like it or what we're trying to achieve. They know how.
Okay, last question. Is there a particular characteristic or trait that you see successful instructional designers share?
I mean, trait, skill, I'm trying to think that personality wise, they're usually very optimistic people, and they usually are visual people where they can see it in their head. It's like when you do math, you can see it in your head, but it still comes down to the ability to chunk a concept and cut through the clutter, because you can't teach everything. You want to teach the core things that people need to learn, because the idea is they would apply their learning and learn more. You never want a class you never have a class of 100% of anything. And so being able to cut through the clutter and get to the core and then chunk it, sequence it, prioritize it in a way, to me, is the winning trait. But I think positivity and passion are right up there too. Because if I'm excited, you get excited. And I think that sometimes if you're just mundane, I mean, you got the whole IT department to be mundane. No offense to IT people, but that analytical brain is just very different. And it doesn't mean that we don't have analytical instructional designers. Absolutely not. But it's just, there's something about trainers that just think differently. And that's why they can pivot and be a good project manager, be a corporate philanthropist, be a customer success leader, be whatever they want to be. They just got to change the story in their head and go after it.
All right, excellent. Trish, thank you so much. This wonderful story. There's just like so much to think about in this one. You have had quite the professional journey. Yeah, there's a lot to think about. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Hey, be a trainer, you can do anything. Work in a movie theater, you can do anything. That's how you've got to think. And so I have one challenge for all of you after this call. Go look in the mirror and tell yourself a story, and then go live that story. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk today.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Trish. And I want to remind everybody at 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern, we have Chrissy Flanagan, who worked for Trish, will be here with Beyond the Transition, What I've Learned After 1 Year in L&D. And also, I do have Bobby Losi Vernon is going to have a table available to speak to at the top of the hour at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. The topic is the skills-based movement. If you haven't talked to Bobby yet, you really should. Bobby is absolutely brilliant and one of the most knowledgeable L&D people I've ever met. So take advantage of the opportunity and meet with her at a table in, I guess that'll be in about 5 minutes. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out the session. Thanks everybody for being here. And hopefully we'll see you in the next 2 that we have coming up for the rest of the day. Thanks, everyone. Bye again, Trish. Thank you.
Thank you.